You're listening to the Star Trek Wars podcast. Today, we will be reviewing the 11th episode of Star Trek Discovery's 4th season. My name is Jordan, and I'll be your co-host. Joining me as always is my co-host, Joselyn. And Joselyn, oh my god, what is that? Is that a flaming... Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. This is embarrassing.
Jordan.
I forgot to change my air filter. Okay.
Again?
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Have you been doing baby alien bone dust again, Jordan? I thought we talked about this.
Listen.
I thought we talked about this.
I went to rehab once, Joselyn. It's that
Don't
sweet,
make me
sweet
send you to space rehab again, Jordan.
baby bone dust.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. So we'll be talking, like I said, about Season 4, Episode 11, Rosetta. It is written by Terry Hughes Burton, directed by Jeffrey W. Bird. Well, Captain Burnham leads an away mission to the planet that was once home to the aliens responsible for the DMA. Book and Tarkus secretly infiltrate the USS Discovery. Maybe not so secretly. We'll talk about that.
Maybe not so secretly.
But Jocelyn, welcome. We have a super busy week for the fans out there. They're going to get 2 episodes, Star Trek Discovery, as well as the premiere of Season 2 for Star Trek Picard. So a really exciting week for Star Trek. Honestly, this might be... I mean, for the first time, I think we've had a little bit of overlap, but Discovery and Picard for 3 weeks straight, it just seems like something that we haven't really seen 2 live-action Trek shows on the same week since the 90s, I want to say. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know if
DS9 TNG overlap, right?
Of Picard and Discovery might have overlapped for a week or something, but yeah, this is pretty incredible, and I think 2 really good episodes to talk about this week. So let's kick it off with Discovery and Rosetta and kind of your first impressions of this week's episode.
Oh my God. This show, you know what this show does? A lot of things. It's wild. It does a lot of things. It's just like not afraid to do things, I guess. I like it for that. I think this show is going to age well, to be honest. I think in 30 years, people will be rewatching this and just be like, this show's wild. It was a wild time. It didn't always make sense, and I didn't always like it. But it was a wild ride episode. And we went a lot of places and did a lot of sneaking around, did some drugs, good times.
Yeah. Are you talking about in the episode, or is this we're getting personal?
Oh, sorry, we're talking about the episode?
Yes, sorry, Jocelyn, I should have been more
okay,
specific.
Sorry. There's a lot of Trek right now, and I get really excited. I think I like Discovery to a fault. I just enjoy watching it when I objectively look at it and look at my notes, I've always got more cons than pros.
Yeah.
But I still remember enjoying watching it, so I'm just having a hard time kind of reconciling those things.
What's like the real life equivalent to Discovery? Or something like your perception is that you really like it, but then you think about it, it's like, I don't know if I really like that at all.
I don't know if it... Starbucks.
Okay.
Starbucks coffee. There's something about it. It feels like a treat to me. I get it, and I'm like, nom, 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 nom. And then I have like real coffee from like a real coffee shop, and I'm like, oh dang, this is good coffee. I see. But Starbucks is there, and it's accessible, and it's made for everyone.
I think I was going to go a different route with this, but I think you hit the nail on the head with this, because Dunkin' Donuts to me is because the Starbucks here in town, for one, I'm not going to spend $7 for coffee or whatever it is, and there's no drive-through, and the parking's terrible.
It is expensive, just like Discovery.
Yes, and for my previous job, I used to drive around all over, and there's Dunkin' Donuts everywhere, and they're accessible. Sometimes they're in the parking lot of where I'm going. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't avoid it. So when I go there is kind of like this. I used to get like a free $2 card through my mobile carrier every week for Dunkin' Donuts, and they'd have $2 lattes. I was like, oh my gosh, so I would get free lattes. So I got like
beat that.
Pavlov dogged into going to Dunkin' Donuts and giving myself a little treat, and I expected a treat, and then they pulled that from me, and now the latte is like $4. I'm like, oh man. So I don't go very often, but when I do go, I would say at least half the time, since every employee there's like one employee and they're 15, the drinks are not always great and very inconsistent. So sometimes it is kind of like Star Trek, because like I have these fond memories of it, and it started off great, And occasionally I get like a really good latte. It's like, oh, this is incredible. But I'd say like half the time, it's not as good as I remember.
That's it exactly.
Like the ingredients are there,
exactly.
but they didn't quite get the measurements right.
Yeah.
So anyways, we probably should talk.
But it's a wild ride every time.
It's a wild ride. And there's whipped cream on top with caramel.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not like a coffee drinker. I am put a little coffee, then a ton of milk and sweets and sugar and cinnamon and caramel. That's me.
Yes.
So... But I guess we should get into the pros. But no, I think overall I might surprise some people because I think this is my favorite episode Discovery this season by a fairly wide margin.
Wow.
I actually really liked this episode. And
I mean, it was pretty good.
It was good. There's a lot
also, some things that drove me crazy.
Like you mentioned, Discovery always has those lingering things that are going to kind of drive you crazy, but I think they were toned down a little bit. I do feel the couple previous episodes not going anywhere hurt this episode because the episode's going somewhere, but it's happening at a slightly faster pace than the previous, but still too slow. So had we cut out probably last week's episode and then the Tarka backstory earlier?
Had we had this episode two episodes ago?
Yes.
I probably would have given it a higher score. Yeah.
It would have gone a long way for sure. So let's get into our pros and find out what you liked about Rosetta.
Unsurprisingly, the biggest pro for me is Tig Notaro is back as Jet Reno. Mm-hmm. And she actually gets like a big part in this.
Well, yeah, and a part that's going to lead to more parts, which is the best part.
I know. Which is the best part of the parts. So, I mean, we get comedy from her. We get everything. She's moving the plot forward. Also, this appears again in my cons, and you'll see why. Okay. But Jet Reno, all the way, very excited. Very many exclamation points after I typed her name. These spacesuits, they are never not cool to me. Every time I see them, I love the lighting on them. I love the look of like the fabric, plastic, whatever it is, weapons grade plastic they're wearing. And I mean, all the functioning that it has is just super high tech cool.
I don't think you could wear those and not feel cool.
I know. It would have to be impossible. And sometimes I wonder, like, what do they look like? Like, are they augmented in any way with like CGI? Or
because we're gonna see some normal people at the conventions wearing them around, didn't they?
Right. What are they gonna look like on someone who's not like, movie star hot? I don't know, but they just look cool. Book has some good moments in this episode, and I feel like they haven't. He's a funny guy. He's a character that has a sense of humor, and I feel like they haven't been taking advantage of that the last few episodes. They've been playing him very dark, which I don't mind him going through a dark phase. That's fine, but I liked his line where he crouches and Tarka was like, oh, is this some kind of like a cultural thing for you? And he's like, no, I just like having a torso. And you're like, what? And then they beam and you realize, and that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty good. The new Doc character, I don't remember his name, but the guy who kind of has a really poor bedside manner the president had to talk to him about.
Dr. Snacks.
Number one. Dr. what?
Dr. Snacks. The guy who's always eating
Dr. Snacks. Yes, Dr. Snacks.
Yeah, and playing Scrabble, 3D Scrabble.
3D Scrabble Doc. Number one, I have wanted to have that conversation with doctors before, and so that was nice. And then also two, I just kind of love how like being encouraging or like positive is such a foreign concept to this guy, considering so many of the characters in Discovery are very aware of being encouraging and everyone's very like positive. Like here's this guy who's just kind of not getting that. And that is nice to have those characters because you need them to create a dynamic. So I liked that. I don't like that we get more from him than several of the bridge crew that we've known for a long time, but we will get into that later on. We finally got that moment where two crew members were just having a drink in the bar near the end of the episode and recapping things. And that was at Detmer and Adira this episode. And I liked that. And I want more of that. That's what we've been asking for. And they did it. And speaking of Detmer, I have neutral zones. For me, I was so worried this whole episode that Detmer was going to die. Because she was being
She's a featured crew member. Or just I'm leaving.
Right, exactly. I've realized now what my family means to me, and I'm going to go back to, whatever. So I'm really glad that, they didn't kill her off or send her to be, a teacher, professor somewhere or something like that. So, but it just it kind of riddled me with anxiety throughout the episode, which, is not good and is an indication that they tend to do that, which is also not something I'm a fan of. Also, just neutral zone. I just need to talk this out. Burnham, Saru, Culber, and Detmer all getting high off of baby alien bones.
What's there to talk about?
I don't know. It's neutral for me, okay? Because I don't. In one way, it's very Trek to have this crazy, weird scientific thing. It's very cool, the idea that this species may communicate primarily through smell. There is so much, even in our human brains, that goes on with smell and how you can communicate a feeling and an intention through smell. And there's a lot of cool science in that. But also, when you say it out loud, it doesn't. Those are dead baby species. And it gets weird in my head when I think about it too much. So it's a little neutral for me because it's kind of, I don't know. It's just, how did they come up with this? I don't know. I don't not like it, but I don't know if I love it is the only thing. Burnham has a line in this episode. This is my last neutral zone. And she said, all of us, this took all of us, and it will continue to be going forward. And I'm hoping that's the writers kind of indicating to us that they're listening to our feedback, specifically yours and mine.
No, exactly.
Because obviously they listen to the show, and we're very influential in the Star Trek community. So I'm hoping that was very intentional, and that they recognize and they're going to build up the bridge crew in season 5, and we can get more of that. So, yeah, those are my pros, neutral zones. What have you got?
Yeah, the baby bone dust or pollen, whatever it was that they were sniffing, snorting.
Yeah.
I would have
absorbing through their.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must have been inhaling it through the suit.
I would have wished that it was more like a. There's an episode of Voyager where there's this monolith, and essentially this dead species implants their memories, and when you get close to it, it overtakes you, and you start reliving their memories. I wish it more of a situation like that, where it wasn't an organic thing or something that they put there intentionally so that people wouldn't forget about them and their history and what happened to them, as opposed to magic pollen dust. But I mean, Star Trek is alien, and they're building up this species as being something much more alien than the forehead of the week. So I guess they're embracing that, and that's okay.
Which is cool. I like that. But why does it have to be babies, I guess, is my thing.
Because it was a nursery.
Why do we have to, why do you always have to make it the saddest possible thing?
I don't know.
A bunch of dead adult aliens, I can get over, but a bunch of dead alien babies, I guess that's okay. It makes sense in the idea that it would have been more protected than anything else. But what if this species just really values its elderly? And they were very, very, very old, just like we. Speaking of Star Trek Picard, we're going to be doing that one as well this week. So, speaking of very, very old. But I digress. Jordan, please continue.
The spacesuits for me are a big step up from Voyager and from First Contact, because they're much more form-fitting, and in the future, that's one big advancement we can make, is not having humongous bubble helmets and super bubble. Right. When you're in space, it doesn't matter, but they're obviously wearing these in their ship going to the shuttle and then to the planet, so you want them to be comfortable and to look good.
Yeah.
I also, I need one of those suits for when I go outside in the spring and our pollen that is floating around, and I can have a filter that can filter out all
for cedar season.
Please,
we need one of those. Actually, I would love to wear that to work.
Yeah, that would be great for you.
Yeah, it would be awesome for me, actually, because I got to tell you, the masks are and continue to be challenging for my skin. So, not happy about that.
You can wear one.
I'd love to have a spacesuit with good lighting on my face, to where I look more awake than I actually am when I drag myself into work at 6:45.
I like exploring the ruins of a ancient civilization. There's something very Star Trek feeling this week. We don't get a lot of exploration of planets on Discovery.
Yeah.
Especially really just dead civilizations is pretty rare in Star Trek. We're usually meeting, ones that are alive. So that was interesting.
Right.
The bit where Book squats down before transporting was kind of funny, like you mentioned. We get Book and Tarka actually doing something. Because in my cons, I'll talk about how, the last couple of weeks, every conversation, even in this episode, to an extent to begin, is the exact same conversation they've had for a month straight, and it's getting very old.
Yes.
We get to see Detmer go on a away mission and not die. I don't know that I would have felt a ton if Detmer had died. I would have been sad, but what's the defining Detmer moment to this point in Discovery? She's had a few moments. She had her PTSD thing where she kind of lashed out. She's been there since season 1, so I guess there's just this. And she's no more a character than Chekhov was in the original series. They haven't given her much to do, but that's a complaint of the original series in some aspects as well. And it seems like she is revered among some of the crew, which seems slightly forced to an extent. Detmer's so cool under pressure. She was freaking out last season, so
yeah, we don't. It's they want to speak things into reality,
yes,
instead of showing them to us. And you mentioned the original series. Yes, that is a criticism of the original series. It's very Star Trek to just be you have the captain and their right-hand man, and that is the show.
And the doctor.
And those are your characters. And your engineering person is a big personality, maybe, hopefully. But Discovery is held to a higher standard for a lot of reasons. And I think I hold it to a higher standard because they tout themselves as more inclusive, and you have this diverse cast, and then you don't use them diversely.
Yeah.
Which that's my
fair.
issue. I'm objectively holding it to a higher standard, which kind of isn't fair, but
I have Reno 911 exclamation point. Reno has a 911 moment.
She does.
Which I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. I was kind of a little surprised that she just ends up captured later in the episode. Not super surprised, but it seemed like Tarka was caught, but I don't know. I liked everything with Reno. I thought she was hilarious. Her dialogue, even getting to see a slightly, if you want to call it, softer side of Reno there for a minute when she's talking to Adira. Aside from her using the phrase "the shit," because Star Trek Discovery keeps trying to put modern vernacular into the 31st century and make it still sound cool, but it doesn't quite work. I loved the bit about the replicators malfunctioning and they're making steamed bananas, which is a direct reference to Lower Decks, which I also laughed a lot in Lower Decks. Because I think anytime the replicator malfunctions, it should always be steamed bananas is the first thing that happens. It just starts making steam. I don't know why, but it just tickles me. And maybe not everyone on the away team should let the why is that a pro? I think that's meant to be in cons. I talked about how they probably should not all let the feeling dust in at one time because they don't know the effects of this. They have a doctor there with them, and he's like, "Oh, let me stick my hand in this dust that takes over our mind and makes us hallucinate." Like, okay, doc.
So we'll talk about all doing ayahuasca together. Who's the guide in this?
You mentioned that the use of the bar scene. I felt like this is probably the first episode where they've actually used it effectively multiple times, where we see people just hanging out. People are not just going to stay in their quarters on a ship. You're in space. There's nowhere you can go or nothing you can really do. So you're going to have those spaces. I want to see a recreation center. I want to see, I don't want a basketball scene like in Enterprise where a 5'3" Malcolm comes in and blocks a shot from,
You're kidding me.
Oh,
that happened?
Gosh. Yeah, they had the gym. They had the crew playing basketball at one point because a bunch of people in space are obviously going to play basketball.
You are just never selling this show to me in a way that makes me think I'll ever watch it
someday. I'm going to force you to watch Star Trek Enterprise one day.
I can't.
I mean, I will let you choose which episode, but you're going to have to watch it. It's going to be a Patreon special. Though. Once we get through all of this. I'm trying to think of what is the worst, best episode for you to watch of Enterprise? Like, what is going to make you question why
what's
Enterprise
the gateway
exists?
Episode?
No, I don't even want to give you the best episode of Enterprise. I want to give you one of the maybe just out of context ridiculous episodes of Enterprise ever. So you watch it and you're like, what in the world did I just watch? And there are several.
And there are several like that? Oh, okay.
Oh yes. There's some good Enterprise for sure, but yeah, I'll have to think on that one. And maybe we'll do a fan poll or something. Which, again, you will not see because it'll be on Facebook and you won't get to see it. So it'll be a surprise.
You'll just have to tell me.
There's a line by Reno as well. This is my last pro, is that she's like, nothing like coming home to an unexpected hostage. That's how the episode ends. And it's so Reno and so hilarious. And she's just been taken hostage and she's still cracking jokes. So I do appreciate that. Neutral Zone wise, I watched this right after Picard because I was so excited to watch Picard. That may have not been the best idea, but in hindsight, I was so happy after watching Picard that I watched this right after, and this, was, I won't say quite on par with Picard, but it was probably the best week of Star Trek that we've had since I was a teenager, which is a long, long time ago. So, this was a really solid episode. Like I said, I think it's my favorite episode of the season. And there's also a scene where Burnham is trying to convince the president that Nilsson is a very capable captain or of being in charge. And show us Discovery.
How?
Stop telling us. Show us. Every time we say Nilsson, take the con, she goes and we might see her sit in the captain's seat or walk that direction, and then we cut somewhere else. And then she never has to do anything or be in charge or make a decision.
Right.
So that's actually, I guess, more of a con. But if the show could show me that Nilsson's a capable captain, it wouldn't be. The aliens, they have feeling. The big discovery they make is that the aliens have feelings and don't let their kids just die. That describes most every species, I would say, and most animals as well, if we're going to go there. There are some that don't.
There are some species, or, I guess... Mostly, I think, insects that eat their young. But it's almost exclusively the males.
Okay, I feel attacked.
I think some male spiders have to hide the eggs from the
Well, yeah, there's spiders. The Black Widow.
No, she's going to eat her mate.
Yeah, and
because he's no longer of use to her. Can get behind that concept.
The praying mantises. But moving on. I just feel like there needs to be a better explanation for Reno's absence. She should have come out of cryostasis for some odd reason or something. Because you can't just not have Reno and then she's just there.
Right.
And she's one of the things I look forward to most. And to save her until the 11th episode or the 11th hour, if you will, when it's almost too late, it's just too much.
Right. It's not cool, man.
This next one... I hesitate to say, but I say thank you a lot, more than most anyone. But man, 20% of the dialogue in the show is people saying heartfelt thank yous in every conversation. The scene between Burnham and the president last week or this week where she's like, this is my command. You'll be in charge of this. I appreciate what you're doing. She's like, thank you so much for saying that, Michael. No, thank you, Madam President, for understanding that. That's just oh my gosh. People don't
They're very thankful.
Talk like that.
They're very,
it's every episode is a Thanksgiving episode.
Every episode Thanksgiving.
And then Dr. Snacks, you mentioned this, kind of neutral zone for me because he gets slapped on the wrist by the president for not being political enough, but he kind of calls out Michael for something, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but I don't remember it being bad. Like, he questioned something that she did. And then the president's like, you can't question Michael in times like these. Like, no, that's when you need to question leaders, is in times like this. So, the way he did it. It was
a little weird.
And I guess he learned from it, and he was like a Debbie Downer again at the end. And he's like, but good job. And then they're all like, oh, yay, he's turning a corner. So that was fine. Like, he learned something. But just the way they go about teaching him that is just like a little forced. I also wish we could see Burnham happy, because I think like Sonequa Martin Green shines when she's acting in like upbeat, comical, or improv scenes, like we saw at the beginning of season 3, where her and Book are on the run.
She does really well, and then
she's on like hallucinating on drugs yet again in that episode, and that's a funny scene. And just like the downtrodden, poor me, Messiah complex Michael is just so tired at this point.
It's tiring.
It is tiring.
She has so much more range than that, and I would like them to explore that more often with her.
And I think I have something in my comments, like speaking about tiring, like watching Discovery and like the emotionality of it, it is tiring. Like when you go through like these heavy emotions of like everyone dying and like there's scenes of
one of Jordan's kids just walked in and he's having a conversation with them.
Okay, well.
We sort that out.
Yeah, it's a good idea to record before your kids go down for naps so they can make unexpected appearances.
Yeah,
they just
absolutely.
Got home from a birthday party, so they're showing me all of the probably party favors that they got.
All their loot?
All the loot,
good for them.
Yes.
Nice.
Now I have forgotten what I was saying.
You were saying how the show is so heavy that it takes
there are
so much energy to watch sometimes.
There are scenes of like therapy, which is good, but I don't want to watch a therapy session. And going through a therapy session, I would imagine, is pretty draining, like emotionally, because you're digging stuff up and dredging up emotions and feelings that are very deep.
Well, as someone with 8 years of experience going through therapy sessions, I would say it's, you feel like you've run a marathon after each one. I usually take a nap. But I don't mind it. I like seeing it because it feels more advanced to me. Like, in the future, this will be very normalized. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, I do feel like you need to balance it out. You know, you can do that and then not also have the world ending in the same episode.
Yeah. This whole show is
episode
just a big
after
Michael
episode.
Burnham therapy session.
What is?
Discovery. It's a Michael Burnham therapy session. But she hasn't gotten to therapy yet. Like, she needs it, but she's putting it off because she's got to save the world first.
I know. She needs some me time. She needs to put herself first. And really, that's a message I can
No. Michael always puts herself first, Jocelyn. She needs to not put herself first is the problem. Let's just move into cons, because I feel like I really like this episode, but I feel like we've already been in cons for half of it.
Yeah, we're in cons already. Speaking of Burnham, and I know that we say this every time, but in this episode, it just really struck me again. She's always the person for the job. I do not remember, and maybe this is just me, but I don't remember her ever mentioning that she's a xenoanthropologist before. And then she mentions it like 5 times in the first 10 minutes.
She is. They set her up as that like very early on. Like in season 1.
So this is something we should know.
It's something we should know.
And I just forgot.
That you've forgotten because the show has not reminded us much recently of that fact.
I was just like, well, of course you are.
Very much recently.
Right. But, good for her. I love an educated woman, but I just felt like it's an overuse of the same thing. Equally as annoying to me is I do not like this new Ferengi look. Mm-hmm. I do not like these new Ferengis. I do not like it at all. They look so serious. And like, they're never rubbing their hands together in that way that Ferengis do. I haven't heard one of them talk about Gold Press Latinum, and it bothers me The Ferengis are my favorite species. I think we've covered this. If I were a Star Trek character, I would definitely be a Ferengi. And I don't like this look they've given them, this very downtrodden, sad Ferengi look.
I think the majority of these species, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I heard someone discussing that Michael Westmore, who designed pretty much all the aliens for Star Trek, essentially, if they use his designs for the Ferengi or the Klingon, they have to pay royalties to Michael Westmore as well as the new person creating the species. So, they have to pay for it. Kind of like the Tom Paris, Nick Locarno situation, where it's we don't want to reuse an existing character from TNG named Nick Locarno when we can just make Tom Paris, and then we don't have to pay the original writer who came up with Nick Locarno. So we'll just make Nick Locarno, but name him Tom Paris.
Okay, so that's why they look so different.
I believe so, and that makes sense. And also, I think they're just trying to update things, and it makes more sense now in Discovery that they're in the 31st century, 32nd century versus season 1 when we're getting Klingons that look completely different. But
it makes sense. I'm glad they're changing them, but I don't like the Ferengi look. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. Not enough pizzazz for me. I want more pizzazz. Tarka is so deeply annoying to me. I literally almost can't even listen to him talk anymore. I'm so annoyed by him, and it's ruining the show for me. Okay. We need to kill him off or get him to that paradise planet, whatever. Just make it stop. Make him stop, basically. And I don't know what they're doing to Book. I love Book as a character. Like I said, he is a great mixture of serious and fun and empathic, but also gets to business. And now they're doing weird things like having him spy on people and spying on Burnham through a wall. It's just very creeper vibes. And I don't get it at all. I don't like it. I don't like what they're doing to him. I know he's going through a thing and I support him going through that thing, but can we come out of it already? Making allies with I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Also, I don't like that Reno was captured. How exactly did Tarka capture Reno? Reno, who is wearing a transporter device, who could just double tap herself out of engineering. Reno, who is wearing a communication device. Reno, who has found him cowered under a console. She found him. She discovered him. And somehow he... they needed to show us, him getting the drop on her. Or, him in some... it should have been reversed. I don't understand how she's in the brig. Maybe they're going to explain it next episode, but I'm not buying it. I feel like she's way more squirrely and resourceful than that. She is not dumb.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Because, it is just Tarka. But I feel like Tarka's the kind of guy who always has a plan. Hey, if I get captured or discovered, this is what I'm going to do. But they should have shown us that going into it for sure.
Show us the plan. Yeah. That's all. That's all I got for cons. Pretty much.
Okay, yeah, I will start off, I believe, in the opening log where Burnham says, "Until I find a way." Not we.
Yeah.
She's so self-centered. And this has been such a long story arc for her, learning to trust other people and not try to do everything herself. But somehow, having not overcome that, she is still the captain of the ship. And people trust her enough and believe in her to follow her hundreds of years into the future for no reason other than the writers made it happen. They did not convince me that anyone other than maybe Tilly was going to follow Burnham into the future and sacrifice everything. So it's really hard to buy that. There's also another line where she says, my gut tells me that they're connected between basically the weapon controller and then these rings that they see around the planet. She's like, maybe not the science of it, your gut tells you, because she then says the fact that it utilizes the same technology as the 10C, you just said that in your whisper log, and then you see around the planet that you think they're from this same technology. Of course they're connected. What do you mean my gut tells me they're... Of course they are. the scene where they're walking down the corridor in slow motion while wearing all black suits with smoke in the background. Like, could you get more cliche? I think not.
That was pretty egregious, yeah.
That was very, very egregious. And yeah.
Very Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm. And slow motion. Like, speaking of Star Trek Enterprise, the overuse of slow motion, oh my goodness. Also, the dramatic swelling of violin music as if it's the end of the world when they're walking to the shuttle. Like, they're playing like the most dramatic music, even for Discovery. And it's like, we're going to the shuttle. It's like, wait, what?
It's so self-indulgent. It's like, you really feel that you have the time for this? You have like 2 episodes left. Like, you cannot afford the slow motion walk to the shuttle scene.
It might be one of the best descriptions of Discovery this season is self-indulgent. That is.
Yeah.
Speaking of the shuttle, it was really nice of the Orville to let them borrow their shuttle. Because my gosh, does that thing just look like a polished turd. I think I mentioned this before. It's terrible.
You like the shuttle, huh?
It's so bland. There's nothing about that shuttle when I look at that says Star Trek, other than like the huge, awkwardly placed Delta decal on the inside of it.
Yeah.
It's awful. Okay, I'll stop talking about that. Next con. Okay, I officially hate the new shuttles. Okay, sorry. Getting off on a tangent here. Most of my cons are about the shuttle. It looks so bad.
You really don't like this.
I didn't
even notice it. I did not.
Because all
I noticed was that
they
transport themselves into the shuttle, which is physically right there.
Yeah.
Like, does it not have a ramp? Does it not have doors, maybe? I don't know.
Seems like a poor design if it doesn't. Because what if you land on a planet and your transporter isn't working? Like, I guess we just die in here.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
It kind of looks like a big white coffin, so why not?
Accurate.
Most of the dialogue between Book and Tarka the past few weeks has been the same conversation. It's Tarka trying to convince Book that he's doing the right thing. It is so tiresome.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm getting so sick of Tarka at this point because he's become so uninteresting.
Yeah.
Another thing, I think I've kind of touched on this, but the show is so delicate that it doesn't allow anyone to be different or to clash. Like, every character has to be this emotionally intelligent, empathetic, completely understanding of everyone and everything's feelings, which is great for the world that we live in, but perhaps not so great for a show that I'm watching that it's kind of like watching season 1 of TNG where like no crew member can fight with each other or have any type of inner turmoil. But then it will completely go against that, like last week where we see Reese and Bryce, who we know nothing about, being at opposing ends of the spectrum arguing over a situation that is so...
Which was interesting.
Well, it could be...
Just not well set up.
Yeah, it could have been interesting. It was so uninteresting to me because... They're basically like, it's like a sports talk show where they're saying, you say Tom Brady's the best ever, and I agree with that, but I'm going to make the counter argument because it's a sports talk show thing. So I've got to say, no, he's not the best. I've got to argue against that. Like, I don't.
Right.
That's basically the writers are saying, hey, we need someone who's opposed to this. So how about Reese? Well, we don't know what Reese thinks. It's cool, so he can be that person. And who will be for it? I guess Bryce. You could have switched the roles, and it wouldn't have made any difference because no one knows what they think. So
no one knows what they think.
That's an issue
and
too.
The goal of like a future where everyone is pretty much self-actualized and empathetic is not that we all agree on everything, but it's like that we can disagree.
Correct. Agree to disagree.
And not be at each other's throats. That we can like appreciate the other perspective, hold 2 opposing viewpoints at the same time and consider that possibly they may both be correct. And I think maybe the show does try to do that, but at times, it's a little bit, I don't know, unrealistic maybe. I don't know, not exactly unrealistic, but there's like kind of a veneer over it.
Yeah. Last con, and you kind of touched on this. Book and Tarka come off as just super creeps this week.
They're
creeps! Spying on people via cameras
He's super creepy.
And in person.
Yeah.
With an added charge of kidnapping on top. Like, you are not helping yourself.
Yeah.
And the scene where Book
you are the bad guys now, guys.
He's, like, in the Jeffries tubes next to, like, where Burnham's standing, but she doesn't see him. Like, I didn't understand what was going on there. Like, was he just there? And she could see him?
He can see through the
wall?
Yeah, he had, like, a device that can, like, make the wall transparent for him, but not for them.
Yeah.
Kind of like those sunglasses that have a pattern on the outside, but if you're wearing them, you can see through them, but no one can see your eyes.
Oh, okay. Well,
it was like that.
Creepy that you know about that. So, yeah, that was weird. And just the way it's shot, it looks like we can see. So, yeah, okay, that's what I thought was going on, but it was it was weird.
It was a little confusing.
Well, that's what we thought about this week's episode of Discovery. And I want to reiterate, like, I liked this week's episode of Discovery. It was probably my favorite episode because there was a more, Star Trek vibe to it, like going to do an away mission on the planet. And the effects were great. And it seems like the species that we're going to find is going to be, the bones, like they said, are absolutely humongous. So this alien should be alien looking, not just a humanoid form. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going with this. The good news is there's only 2 episodes left, so they're forced to do something. This feels very much like cramming for a test. It's like, I did a little research. Like, I did a little bit. I wrote like a couple paragraphs. It's like, you need to get 10 pages in by tomorrow. Like, oh, what? Like, so the writer's like, we got to wrap this up. So this definitely set things in motion that should have been set in motion 2-3 weeks ago. So I'm looking forward to that. But I want to know, Jocelyn, what the fans think of this week's episode.
Ooh, so do I. Well, William Jenks says, I've seen enough serialized TV by now to see this as the obvious penultimate or anti-penultimate episode. We spent a lot of time appearing to have something happen that actually putting a lot of chess pieces into place for the end game. I generally enjoyed this episode and would have been happy if this was the quality of the show throughout the season. And also, if this was the level of Burnham throughout the season, which is to say, the biggest character, but not overwhelming. I probably graded some of the previous episodes that I didn't like as much too easy, so to be consistent with those marks, I probably have to give this an 8. But if I sit down and compare this 8 to the 8s that I think of with DS9, I realize I've failed to grade inflation. Anyway, I think we're closer to back on track. 8. 8% of all the screen time is how much Tig Notaro should get. I agree. She should get at least 8% of all the screen time.
At least. Yeah.
10%.
I agree as well.
Really is what I would want.
And William actually had a much longer, I believe for Discovery, a much longer review that I read, but I did kind of cut down the comments a little bit this week because we actually got a lot more for this and for Picard. I think people are really excited about Star Trek. Yeah. I thought this was a really good, episode of Discovery and Picard. We'll get into later. I'm excited to talk about it, but I can't yet. We're on the wrong show. But so if you guys want to get, the engagement and the back and forth, you can go to the Facebook page. Just go to Facebook and type in Star Trek Wars, and we'll pop up. And you can vote on the episodes, review them, and kind of find out what the fellow council members think about each week's episode, which is interesting because we get to not only review these and people get to hear what we think, but we get to see how people's opinions change or don't change on Discovery, week to week, and what other people are liking about it. And for the most part, pretty in line with the fans most of the time, but sometimes I'm surprised. Like some of the reviews for this week's episode were a lot more negative than I thought. And for me, most of the negativity is holdover from previous episodes, but just judging this episode based on its merits, I really like it. I do agree with what William Jenks said, is if I go back to this season, I feel like almost every episode I reviewed is probably a point too high, which maybe makes us stand out a little bit more. But yeah, like a Discovery, if you give this episode an 8 versus some of if I look at the spreadsheet of all the episodes I've reviewed, like 8s are really, really good episodes. Of like Deep Space Nine or Voyager. Right. So like almost classic episodes. So, but I digress. We'll move on. Wayne Frazier says, let me fervently whisper my review of this episode. I don't like this episode at all. I'm not sure I can be objective about this show at this stage. It lost me some back now, and I'm hoping they come back with a minor reset in season 5. Reno is exempt from all criticism, of course. I agree with that. But yeah.
Of course Reno is. A mirror reset would be cool too. Will Flora. Holy crap, this felt like a classic Trek episode. Away mission as an A plot, which informs the B and C plots, plus some weird sci-fi along the way. I think the only thing holding me back on this episode is that it had quite a bit of technobabble and also the whisper talking. The whole opening was whisper talking. And how is Book going to sneak on Disco and not go see the cat? 9 hostage Renos. How did he not stop by and see his cat? This is what I'm saying. They're doing Book a disservice, and I don't like it.
They're doing Grudge a disservice.
They're doing Grudge a disservice.
Chris Roel says, finally, after a long season of humdrum and boredom, something actually happened. And not just something, but a legitimate something. It was clever, unique, and felt Trek rather than daytime soap opera. More of the same, please. Discovery. He gives it a 7.
And Jeremy Reed said, Rosetta showed glimpses of the things I love about this show while still being hampered by all the things I dislike about this season. I love that we got some quiet moments with the crew. Adira, Linus, and Reno exist this week, and wow, the series is better for their presence. Adira and Detmer bonding was wonderful, and Renoing around is always great. I like the away team story and the fun discoveries of this interesting 10C species, but the episode once again fails to deliver any real progress to the story. This marks the 3rd straight episode of DCS or DSC. I don't know why I can never see that right. I'm just going to say Disco. Setting out to make first contact with 10C and ending with them still needing to make contact with 10C. Now, it's one thing if making contact is an overarching seasonal plotline, but they have made that the primary storyline every episode for almost a month, and we still have very little to show for it. It's exhausting, honestly. It's like if in the season premiere of Picard, Jean-Luc is told that his presence has been requested on the Stargazer because something has asked for him personally, but we spend the next 3 episodes with Picard traveling to the Stargazer but not arriving. Now it's episode 4 and he still hasn't arrived on the Stargazer, and we just spent nearly half a season stretching out what really should have been a single plot point in one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
I can't disagree. It's in my contract. I can't disagree with Jeremy. So, literally, I
think it's disagree. Yeah. Did I sign that too?
I should have read the fine print.
I can't read, so that makes it hard.
All right, Jocelyn. Let's rate this episode. Let's skip the basement.
You don't want to.
What?
You don't want to go to the. You don't want to go down. You don't want to take the turbo lift to the basement. Okay, but I have. It's pretty. It's pretty lit down there this week. All right, let's go.
Let me put my spacesuit on first.
You know what? Let's spacesuit and let's not take the turbo lift. Let's just tap the transporter. Ready? Mm-hmm. Here we go.
Time to take out the garbage.
And we're in the basement, where we scour the IMDb page and we find only the finest 1-star reviews this week. Martin's Marks says, Space Feelings, the bold and the beautiful new generation in the space. It's a really catchy title, Marks. So boring. It's more exciting to watch paint dry than watch STD. First of all, please don't call this show STD. Well, and if you don't know why, then please consult your doctor. Nothing interesting happens again, common all season long. And then he goes on, but he ends with, I already predicted 3 times things that happened in this episode. And so I thought, oh, wow, this guy made these predictions. So I went back to the previous episode's review where he made the predictions, and I just want to see which 3 things he accurately predicted. Jocelyn. So here are his predictions that he made. This is Martin's Marks. Number 1, DMA will be someone again. I don't know what that means, Martin, but that didn't happen. Number 2, DMA was caused by someone's feelings. Also not true. Number 3, lots of crying and whispering and talking, and then 5 minutes of most ridiculous action and illogical things. I don't know about that. There was really more happiness in this episode than anything else. Number 4, Michael Burnham will save all galaxies again single-handedly, maybe killing a few thousand or million beings in the process. Hasn't happened yet. Number 5, complete ignorance of STD, own internal continuity. Again, I feel like Martin may be the one who has a total ignorance of STD, and again, in which case, please consult your doctor, especially if you're having any burning or itching or, difficulty urinating. So I'm afraid Martin is 0 for 5 predictions, but
I give him half a point.
Claiming, 0 out of 5 points, but claiming that you get 3 points is a strategy. So anyway,
you can't lose if you make up your own rules.
You can't lose if you change the rules along the way. And that's what we've learned in the basement. Let's tap out of here.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, let's take this suit off. Let's rate this week's episode, Justin. What do you give Rosetta?
I thought it was a strong episode, like you said. Not the strongest, but I gave it an 8. 8 back alley baby bones bath salts to make you feel real nice.
Okay. Sounds like a medicine shop in Florida.
Right? Back alley baby bath salts.
Back alley baby bath salts. It'll make you want to fight a crocodile.
President's Day sale. Yeah.
Abe Lincoln himself ingested our salts. I will give this, you know what? If they can reprogram the Kobayashi Maru, then I can break the rules. I'm going to give this a 7.5. Ooh. Which I have never given a half rating because Jeremy will not allow it. But I read the contract.
Unprecedented.
And nowhere does it say that I can't do that if he's not here to stop me. So, 7.5. I smell dead people. The fans give this a combined score of a 6.3, making the overall score of this week's episode of Discovery a 7.26, which I'll just call a 7.3.
Nice.
And Jocelyn, it's time for our next time on, or deleted scene for this week's episode. Do you have something?
I have a next time on.
You do? Okay.
Yes. Next time on Star Trek Discovery, after Discovery's discovery of pure, uncut baby bones dust, every space criminal in the galaxy begins fighting over who will corner the baby bones bath salts black market. The Federation, citing ethical concerns, takes possession of the fossils, holds a series of closed-door meetings, and emerges with a ban on 10C baby bones dust, while at the same time announcing that a space pharma company will be selling a new powder to treat anxiety and clinical depression, and it only costs 15,000 bars of gold plus latinum a gram. So,
oh, wow.
Some things never change.
This is true. It's funny because we have not been reviewing Babylon 5 recently because there's been so much new Star Trek, and there's going to be new Babylon 5 too. So our watch will never end. What? Did you not hear?
What?
This news is like 6 months old. J. Michael Straczynski, the original writer of Babylon 5, is rewriting Babylon 5. They're redoing it.
They're doing a new Babylon 5 series?
The CW.
Oh.
Sounds like I made that up, but I didn't.
Jordan, this merges like my two favorite niche markets, universes, the Star Trek universe and the CW universe.
Well, Babylon 5 is not Star Trek.
I know, but it's in the realm. Sci-fi.
Yeah, there you go.
It's adjacent. It's very Star Trek adjacent. I mean, come on. There would be no Babylon 5 without Star Trek. Let's just be honest here.
And there may not be Star Trek Deep Space Nine without Babylon 5. Some would say.
Wow. Bold statement, but
not exactly. So J. Michael Straczynski wrote Babylon 5. He brought it to Paramount and was like, I would like to do a Star Trek show about a space station. And then a few months later, they told him no, and a few months later, Deep Space Nine was announced. So I think it was probably already in production, and there are some minor similarities, but he's even gone on to say, like, no, my show is very different, and, whatever. So, but yeah, that's kind of the story. That's why I say that.
I did not know. Mm-hmm. Star Trek, always bringing the drama.
It didn't start with Discovery. It's always been there. Well, Justin, let's talk about a deleted scene where it's explained why Saru went on the away mission. So the real reason he went was he knew that there's no way Tarina is going to be able to resist him after seeing him wear that all-black tactical uniform, walking in slow motion down a dark corridor with smoke in the background, waving those long arms behind his hooved. But, like, who had to make that spacesuit? And what happens if something goes wrong with his spacesuit? Like, I don't think there's a second one that has the hooved boots.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? But solid plan, Saru. Solid plan.
Which is, it's one of my favorite Shania Twain songs is Hooved boots have your bed. Or what song's the song go? Hooved boots have your bed.
Hooved boots have your bed spin.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but Shania sings it beautifully.
All right, getting closer and closer to that Star Trek musical I keep asking for.
Well, Jocelyn, that is pretty much it for Star Trek Discovery. We have 2 episodes to go. So next week will be the penultimate episode of Discovery. No titles yet this season. They're keeping things under wraps. But I feel like this episode set things in motion. The next episode has to do a lot to set the finale. Because if it doesn't, it's going to be really rushed. I think it's going to be a little rushed either way. But I just hope that this somehow pays off. I feel like if they can land the last 2 episodes after having this strong showing, they kind of had that one-off episode that was kind of fun. I feel like that can kind of salvage this season. But so far, this has been my least favorite season of Discovery. So I really hope they can.
It's not been great.
The saving grace is we're going to be talking about Picard here soon on the network, so look for that. And then we have Strange New Worlds coming out in a couple months. So there's so much Star Trek that, Discovery this season is taking place at a good time where, like, if this happened right before we went into COVID and didn't have Star Trek for a long time, it would have been pretty devastating. But it's happening at a point where, if you're trying Discovery, you don't like it, go watch Picard, go watch Strange New Worlds, watch Lower Decks, watch Pride. Like, there's something
We're rich with Trek, people.
I would prefer for all of it to be great, but Discovery has been good, not great this season. Maybe not even good at times. So I'm looking forward to next week. I thought this was a really nice setup for next week. I just hope they can stick the landing. So, any closing thoughts, Jocelyn?
We need to meet the 10C next week. We need to meet them.
And if for no other reason than to give them a new freaking name. Like, we've been calling you the 10C. Can you tell us?
Yeah, how do you guys feel about
that? And
then
we just see, like, this behind the scenes, the 10C talking like, they call us the 10C? What disrespect. Like, they can't even give us a cool name. Let's just blow them up. And that's how Discovery ends. Well, that's what we thought of this week's episode. Thank you all so much for listening to Star Trek Wars. We'll be back next week to review the penultimate episode, the 12th episode of Season 4. And again, look for us on the feed, where we'll also be reviewing the first episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Picard. Until then, computer and program.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.